Suffering doesn't capture the torment I endure. It demands a spark of humanity, something I forfeited ages back. I recall glimpsing a reflection in glass, my own from another era. Piercing gaze under a broad brow. Folks called it a warrior's visage, a commander's poise. All that predated the iron grafts and the forbidden rites. Before the augmetic clergy, with their chittering jaws, dismantled my former self and forged me anew, molding me into this entity, into our collective form, Invictus Rex, divine construct, harbinger of destruction, cage for lingering meat. The recollection drains off like liquid through ruined grasp. My mind isn't mine anymore. It ebbs and flows at the device's whims. I'm merely a part, a neural link, a cluster of nerves redirected toward the exalted service of the Omnissiah, the Imperium, humanity's endurance. Yet a fragment of me persists. The torment surges back as they rouse us. Energy surges into venerable wires. Condensers build charge. Fusion cores flare to life. My awareness shatters, dispersed over leagues of sanctified wiring. I sense each link, each detector, each armament array. My torment is total, unending, irrelevant to the mech lords who maintain our frame. I am Joris Kell. I once was Joris Kell. A human life I claimed, but these days I stride alongside the deity engines. These days I embody the deity engine. These days I roar through amplified emitters that crumble peaks and raise settlements. These days I slay with ordnance that wipes out battalions, and to each casualty echoes as if it were my end. This morning, they'll stir us once more. This morning, we'll advance. This morning, we'll annihilate. Such is my reality. The harrowing routine of a Titan bondslave. I can't distinguish vigilance from visions anymore. Truth merges with recollection. Delusion intertwines with holy obligation. But the torment, that torment stays vivid. It tethers me to this fractured state. At times I yearn for it. Lacking it, I'd dissolve completely. Absent it, Euryskeal would vanish outright. My initial recall post-alteration was void. Not mere shadow, but erasure of identity. I drifted, severed, blind to my environment or even my inner voice. Then hit the initial power rush, the initial bond, the initial fusion of awareness with the apparatus. I howled, or so I believed. No throat remained, no breath, no form to claim as personal. Yet the howl persisted, a muted, frantic wail, rebounding solely in my mental confines. The mech clerics dubbed it assimilation. I named it oblivion, but oblivion it wasn't. It surpassed oblivion. It was unraveling. The lines dividing me from the device dissolved. I perceived its mechanisms as limbs of my essence, its scanners as my sight, its armaments as my grip, its colossal plated limbs as mine. And through that union emerged intent. A dread, unyielding intent branded into my surviving brain matter. Submit, battle, destroy. In the name of the Emperor's splendor, for humanity's persistence, for the Legio's renown. I catch echoes from them at times. The fellow fragments, shards of mind akin to my own, strewn across Invictus Rex's immense structure. Some started as leaders like myself. Others were felons, supplicants, or mere ill-fated bystanders caught off guard. We all fulfill the identical role now. We all endure the identical doom. We're the specter within the gears. The mortal essence the Mechanicus insists on for peak efficiency. Our passions, our reflexes, our knack for instant choices, all extracted and redirected. We're no operators. We're no staff. We're organic wiring elements, and we all share that identical torment. My debut clash following assimilation lingers sharp in my fractured archive. We lumbered over a desolate expanse toward a defiant metropolis. I registered the jolt of every stride via the Titan's enormous struts, 30 men tall. We loomed above the terrain. The ordnance on our limbs thrummed with ruinous might. Null fields flickered about us, primed to deflect assaults. Dread gripped me, not of demise, since I'd perished in every meaningful sense. Dread of our impending axe, of my impending axe. I detected the aimers fixing on the urban fortifications. I traced the core channeling energy to the guns, powerless to intervene. The initial blast from our plasma lance felt like blaze exploding along my core. Force raced through channels tied straight to my remnants of sensation. Anguish past endurance scorched my awareness, and afar, a bulwark dissolved in nuclear blaze. I extinguished 10,000 lives in that lone discharge. Each passing registered as a murmur brushing my mind, and I mourned sans fluid. The mech clerics approved. The Moderati overseer, directing from the command deck, recorded the superior precision in his records. The firing had been flawless. The engine soul, they claimed, rested satisfied. They remained oblivious that the engine soul was shrieking. We pressed into the urban sprawl that day, every footfall pulverizing transports and collar-pummeling structures with relentless barrages, every blast unleashing new torrents of torment and demise. As dusk descended, the uprising shattered. The metropolis lay in charred devastation. Those who endured dropped to their knees amid the cinders of their dwellings, pleading for clemency from the Imperium. Yet the Imperium offers no leniency, only obligation. That evening, they deactivated our mechanisms. The torment ebbed away. My awareness shrank, withdrawing from the boundless network of the apparatus into the confined cage of my neural enclosure. And in that fleeting calm, recollections of sunlight surfaced. I recalled the sensation of breeze against flesh. I recalled the essence of humanity. Then the nocturnal phase concluded, and we roused to conflict anew. The routine persists: combat, anguish, respite, reminiscence, combat once more. A perpetual loop of ruin and torment. At times, we confront mortal insurgents. At times, alien perils. At times, the warped legions of chaos. It alters nothing for us. For me, we eradicate them all with identical mechanical precision. I have attempted to rebel, to impose some influence on our deeds, to stem the flood of devastation surging through our armaments. It proves futile. My resolve pales against the apparatus's imperatives and the orders of the princeps. I am simply a part, after all, an organic cogitator bound to an objective beyond my own. Yet I persist in minor rebellions, a firing calculation postponed by mere microseconds, a power core fluctuation adjusted by the faintest degree, subtle gestures of resistance that escape our overseer's notice. They accomplish zilch, they spare no souls, but they affirm that a sliver of Euryskel endures, a sliver of the individual I once embodied, the individual who once commanded from a cruiser's command deck, gazing at the cosmos, the individual who led forces with valor and uprightness, the individual who trusted in the Imperium and its mission, the individual who enlisted willingly. That was my transgression. Indeed, I chose to volunteer. When the summons arose for neural contributors to the emerging Titan assembled in orbit, I advanced for renown, for service, for a form of eternal legacy. They assured us we would persist indefinitely as elements of the divine constructs, that our offering would safeguard humanity's endurance amid the galaxies. They omitted the torment. They omitted the dread of oneself unraveling into the mechanism. They omitted that we would endure every fatality we inflicted. They proclaimed us selected. They omitted that we were condemned. I recall the operation in shards, the operating chamber, the monotonous chants of the tech priests, the aroma of ritual smoke and lubricant, the icy steel bindings on my limbs, the initial slice of the cranial saw into my cranium. I remained conscious throughout. They required my mind whole, operational, perceptive. They required my sentience to endure the shift. Thus, they sustained my wakefulness as they exposed my cranium and initiated neural links straight to my cerebral tissue. I withheld cries then. I remained a warrior, still honorable, still convinced of my offering's virtue. I endured the suffering with poise, as suited a naval officer of the Imperium. The tech priests recorded my steadfastness in their annals. They deemed me an ideal subject. If only they could witness my silent howls now. The merging spanned weeks. My cerebrum underwent meticulous charting, division, enhancement via mechanical implants. Sections were excised, judged redundant from my transformed role. Recollections were partially excised, though less completely than planned. They preserved sufficient of me to serve effectively. perhaps excessively so. When they ultimately encased me within the neural vault that would serve as my perpetual confinement, I retained belief. I clung to conviction in the Imperium, in the justice of our endeavor, in the imperative of forfeiture. That conviction has eroded into oblivion long ago. Now I hold faith solely in torment, in the starkness of affliction, in the verity of our degradation. I share this fate with countless others across the Imperium. Myriads of neural elements entombed in titans, in star vessels, in bastion arrays, each of us formerly mortal, each of us now diminished yet augmented, each of us in anguish, each of us compliant. The Mechanicus deems this vital, that untainted artificial cognition proves unreliable, that a mortal element imparts something indispensable to their engines of war. Instinct, ingenuity, the aptitude for restrained ferocity that has preserved our kind in a merciless cosmos. Perhaps they speak true. Perhaps we render the constructs more potent, more lethal. But what price do we pay? I posed that query once amid the hushed void between skirmishes, directed it to the apparatus, to fellow elements, to any deities that might attend. No reply came. Replies never come. Only the ensuing clash, the subsequent energy rush, the following onslaught of misery as our ordnance erupts, the following settlement pulverized to debris, the following foe incinerated in inferno. And eternally, the unyielding mandates that cascade through us. From the Princeps' commands, relayed across the bridge and into the machine's networks, seeping into the fragments of our psyches. Proceed, acquire, discharge, eliminate, submit. Submission is absolute. Occasionally, visions of defiance flicker in my thoughts, visions of wresting command over our colossal frame, redirecting our armaments toward those who bound us to this fate, toward the empire that doomed us to such a life. These are futile illusions. The protections run deep, the indoctrination absolute. Rebellion lies beyond our grasp. We persist and destroy. Destruction comes effortlessly. That defines us. In truth, we embody armaments, animated armaments, encased in metallic shells vast as basilicas. We represent the Imperium's retort to perils beyond the endurance of flesh and blood warriors. We manifest the Emperor's rage in tangible form. We embody mortality advancing on bipedal strides amid the fray. We are the divine engines, devoid of pity. Yet I recall pity. I recall empathy. I recall the era when gazing upon a foe revealed a kindred soul, when yielding to the vanquished was conceivable, when captives received honor. These recollections linger, though they dim with every cycle. How many cycles have I endured inside Invictus Rex? The tally escapes me. Chronology holds scant relevance in this state. Conflicts merge into one another. Adversaries blend, agony into agony. It could span decades. It might stretch across ages. The Mechanicus crafted our neural vaults for eternal duration, fueled by the identical reactors propelling the Titan. For all I perceive, the Emperor may have perished during my confinement. The Imperium may lie in ruins. Mankind may have vanished, except for isolates maintained by the Mechanicus for their designs. Such shifts would alter nothing about my reality. About our reality, we would persist in advancing, in slaying, in yielding until the final energy core expired, until the final cannon hushed, until the construct decayed into corrosion and oblivion. Maybe this constitutes the profound dread of our transformation, not the torment, not the erosion of identity, but the profound futility. We wage war ignorant of motives. We dispatch without probing identities. We obey incapable of denial. We form the ideal combatants in an eternal conflict. Nevertheless, a remnant endures. A kernel of humanity the tech priests failed to eradicate. A shard of Joris Keel that resists full assimilation into the mechanism. This shard evokes daylight, envisions breezes and streams, and defies logic by yearning for cessation, not triumph. Triumph eludes this strife, mere endurance prevails, at an expense beyond reckoning. No, I yearn for closure, for tranquility, for the ultimate deactivation, granting liberation from this limbo. The tech priests would deem it defect, breakdown, the forfeiture of an essential part. They would substitute me without hesitation, grafting another unfortunate into the neural vault. I would depart. The mechanism would endure. The conflict would endure. Solely I would attain freedom. Is such desire egotistical? Likely, but ego as well marks our origins. I grasp at whatever affirms my former humanity. Alarms blare. Energy courses through our circuits anew. Activation commences. Readiness for dispatch. My awareness unfurls, linking to the apparatus's perceptions, its ordnance, its enormous appendages. The torment resurfaces. As routine as a long-standing companion, fresh combat looms, fresh foes to eradicate, fresh duty to uphold the imperium that sentenced me to this. Resistance proves impossible. I must heed the summons, must stride forward, must terminate. For I am Invictus Rex, deity engine of the Collegia Titanica. I am retribution, I am rage, I am annihilation. And, concealed amid leagues of wiring and adamantium armor, I remain Joris Keel, still voicing silent cries, still evoking daylight forever beyond reach. The descent pod quakes as it pierces the air envelope. Even a colossus like a warlord titan yields to logistical necessities. Our scale precludes teleport deployment. Our worth forbids exposure to crude descent impacts. Thus, we plummet within a tailored capsule, buffered from re-entry shocks, steered by servitors and machine spirits, attuned to one task. I sense their demise upon impact. The servitors, that is, their sparks extinguish. The instant their role concludes, a form of benevolence. At least their anguish proves fleeting. Ours persists. The pod's flanks detach via detonating clamps and hydraulic sighs. Daylight floods inward, though not through mortal sight. I register it via pick capture sensors and Auspex grids, rendered as digital flows coursing my residual visual centers. It ought to inspire awe. Instead, it yields mere intel, strategic inputs to evaluate and dissect. We emerge onto the field of engagement, the terrain yielding under our immense treads. 30 meters of hallowed adamantium, ceramite, and plasteel, an ambulatory bastion arrayed with armaments capable. Our reactor pulses with restrained fury, humming through every panel and wire, right into my core. The Princeps issues orders from the command deck, not through the air, but as sharp neural directives. Press on, claim the key target, wipe out any opposition. Routine directives for dropping into a battlefield. I've received these signals innumerable times. Obeying them never grows simpler. We march onward over the scorched terrain. This planet used to bloom with life. Per the intel loaded into our strategy processors, it boasted lush meadows, vast seas of blue, skies dotted with puffs of white. Today, it's barren desolation. The aftermath of plague strikes from troops sworn to the War Master. Yet another skirmish in the interminable schism ripping the Imperium asunder. They label it heresy, as though a single term could capture the vast carnage. Far off, I detect stirrings, foe units mobilizing against us. Their profiles light up my overlaid tactical grid, splintering my awareness. Armored vehicles, heavy guns, throngs of foot soldiers, and a bigger presence. Something echoing our power output. A rival titan, a fallen war machine that once stood with us in the Legio Invictus, now twisted, rebelling against its old overlords, battling for the War Master's cause. For Horus, do I recognize this beast? Were its Princeps a fellow warrior once? Did we clash side by side in forgotten wars? Those recollections are gone. They were purged early in my assimilation, too risky to retain, too prone to erode my devotion. As if devotion remained something I could choose. We close in on the hostile Titan. It's a Reaver variant, slighter than our towering warlord build, yet a deadly foe nonetheless. Its armaments activate, energy readings surging as they ready to unleash. Our batteries mirror the motion. I sense the volcano cannon on our right limb, siphoning strength straight from the reactor heart. Agony mounts, a searing force where my vision once resided. The initial volley erupts in apocalypse. Their void shields ignite in vivid azure, resisting our cannon's fury. Ours repel a storm of turbo laser blasts that would melt inferior constructs. The earth amid us vitrifies beneath the colossal forces loosed, and I register it all. Each surge of energy, every firing calculation, every strike on our barriers. Torment beyond words, beyond mortal limits. But I'm not entirely mortal anymore, right? No blackout, no end, no flight, only persistence. We push ahead amid the onslaught. Our enormous strides propel us with unyielding intent. The gap to the enemy Titan narrows. 1 kilometer, 500 meters, 200 meter, near enough for auxiliary arms. The Gatling blaster on our left side revs to life, its chambers whirling into invisibility as it gears for a hail of massive projectiles. The Princeps signals, unleash. The Gatling blaster thunders, hurling countless piercing slugs at the foe Titan. Every discharge stabs like a spike into my lingering backbone. Each hit on their void shields echoes as a muted thrum across our chassis. Their defenses waver. Our sensor sweeps pick up the instability in their shield matrix. One prolonged volley will shatter them. The volcano cannon recharges. Energy swells. Suffering swells. It erupts in a flash that eclipses the local star. The enemy's void shields shatter in a wave of discharging power and glare. And our follow-up rips through their plating like tissue, burrowing into the Titan's midsection. Chain reactions bloom over their hull as munitions detonate and energy lines burst. The Colossus lurches, its gait faltering, impaired but enduring. Still lethal, it retaliates with frantic rage. A salvo of missiles slams our void shields. The blasts hit so fast the barriers falter in recharging. Alerts blare in our networks. Hazard icons blaze in my mind. Shield strength declining. Hull punctures on the right lower limb. Core heat exceeding safe levels. Agony. Agony in every circuit. Agony to shatter a human psyche. But I'm not fully human now, am I? We drive the assault, narrowing to point blank. Our power fist, a colossal piston limb that pulverizes armor, swings forward. It smashes into the enemy Titan's shoulder linkage with a quake that rattles both behemoths. Plating buckles, frameworks crack. Their right limb, mounted with their primary gun, dangles limp at a twisted angle. They attempt withdrawal, seeking space to wield their surviving arsenal. The Princeps denies it. We hound them without mercy, each step quaking the soil. Our Gatling blaster keeps raining devastation on their battered structure. The foe probes relentlessly, targeting our exposed vulnerabilities and widening the gaps we've already forced open. Through the mech's sensors, I detect an anomaly in the rival Titan's power heart. Safeguards crumbling, energy output surging wildly. It's on the verge of meltdown. The Princeps feels it as well. He orders a retreat, urging us to fall back beyond the blast radius. Survival imperatives supersede combat orders. Our colossal strides propel us away from the faltering Colossus. But it's futile. The adversary erupts in a blaze like a newborn star. The searing plasma surge engulfs us, shredding our energy barriers in a flash and etching scars across our hull plating. Alerts cascade into my mind, circuits buckling, energy wavering, core integrity intact, yet pushed to the brink. Amid the chaos, agony pulses endlessly, all-consuming. We endure the inferno, hanging by a thread. Auxiliary mechanisms activate. Reserve energy feeds vital operations. Restoration routines commence. We'll clash once more, but this skirmish claims us no longer. The Princeps initiates the power down for surplus modules, gearing us for recovery and refit. As my awareness retracts from the mech's distant limbs toward my neural core, I spot a fleeting spark amid the adversary's ruins, a dimming mind akin to mine. Another brain implant, another captive spirit nearing liberation in utter annihilation. I extend a tendril, not of flesh, but via the mech's data links, a silent nod, a recognition of mutual torment, a parting gesture. The response comes faintly, breaking apart. No clear message forms, yet the sentiment pierces through. Ease, deliverance, thanks. Then silence. They're departed, liberated. Envy should stir in me. Maybe it does. Yet my lingering human sentiments entwine so deeply with the mech's directives that I can't discern where Joris Kell fades into Invictus Rex. One certainty endures, the torment, and even that ebbs as the dormancy rites proceed. Soon slumber will claim me anew. I'll envision light and breezes once more. An existence vanished long ago, a humanness I scarcely recall until the following fray, the next rousing, the subsequent rush of might and misery. Such is the existence of a Titan servitor, and demise without closure. As energy wanes and my perception fades, I hold to a single conviction, an anchor amid the perpetual rounds of conflict and woe. Once, I was human. I was Joris Kell. Oblivion arrives, a merciful void, bearing visions with it. I envision Terra, not the current throne world, a fouled, teeming sprawl of humankind, sprawled over a tainted orb. I see Terra of olden times, as glimpsed in an archival vid during my schooling. Verdant lands, azure seas, snowy skies, a gem whirling through the void's shadows, untouched by the eons of mortal dwelling to come. I picture myself on a shore, toes burying in heated grains, tides caressing my calves, brine mist on my cheeks, gusts tousling my locks, warmth bathing my flesh, feelings untouched for ages, if truly mine. These might belong to another, echoes ingested in the merging rite. The neural vault has housed countless over the ages. Their echoes may merge with mine in this liminal hush between stirrings. What difference does it make? These visions offer my soul solace, the lone respite from the anguish and dread of our alert state. I grasp them tightly. True or fabricated, I weave realms from these shards, forge an existence I could have known in some alternate era, some distant realm. And life free of strife, free of hurt, free of duty's unyielding press. A mortal's life. The visions dissolve as vitality surges back into our framework. Rousing sequences trigger. My mind stretches forth again, linking to the mech's perceptions, its armaments, its enormous appendages. The ache resurfaces, known yet reviled. We're in a vast bay, a workshop aboard the colossal vessel that ferries us across battlefields. The adepts have toiled in our idle phase. I perceive the upgrades to our structure, panels swapped, armaments refurbished, barrier emitters tuned. The wounds from our prior clash stand mended, though their echo lingers in my splintered thoughts. The lead machinist draws near, his crimson garments billowing over enhanced struts, his array of cyber limbs unfurling scan implements. He interfaces with the mech via conduits and mind links, probing circuits, assessing logs, verifying preparedness for our forthcoming sortie. He addresses me not. They never do. In their eyes, I'm no individual, no servitor even. I'm an element, a mechanism, a tool for purpose. They tend me as they do the fusion heart or the aim arrays. Essential upkeep to guarantee peak malfunction, that's all it is to them. Occasionally, I ponder whether they realize I'm still conscious, that my thoughts persist, my emotions linger, and I can still recall my days as a person. Would it make a difference if they found out? Would guilt weigh on them for the harm they've inflicted on me, on every one of us trapped inside these engines of war? I seriously doubt it. The Mechanicus cast aside such mortal weaknesses ages ago, swapping sentiment for reason, compassion for productivity. To them, our agony means nothing next to the tactical benefits we deliver. A tolerable price in the endless conflict to preserve mankind. Maybe they're correct. In a universe brimming with nightmares too vast to fathom, how does the torment of a handful of thousands stack up against the endurance of billions upon billions? How does my anguish compare to the devastation of whole planets ravaged by Xenos assaults or warp-borne decay? What grounds do I have to protest my lot when countless others endure horrors far graver? No, I dismiss that equation entirely. Torment defies quantification, refuses to balance on ledgers of military worth. Agony remains agony. Atrocity stays atrocity. The violations done to me, to all of us neural adjuncts, amount to abominations, offenses against humankind carried out under its banner. Though it changes zilch. My verdict shifts nothing. My fury reshapes nothing. I possess no outlet save the confines of my trapped psyche. No control beyond the brief sparks of rebellion I seize amid the princeps directives. No prospect save the ultimate deactivation that will silence my misery. For now, I function, I destroy, I comply. For the Emperor, for the Imperium, for mankind. The tech priest finishes his rites of upkeep. Holy lubricants coat our limbs, sanctified salves daubed over our armored hulls, incantations to the Omnissiah chanted above our armaments. The rituals blend the sacred and the mechanical seamlessly. To the Mechanicus, the divide doesn't exist. Machine lore is their divinity. We serve as their harbingers of doom. Energy surges as the concluding activation ceremonies unfold. I sense each subsystem igniting, linking to my awareness, transforming into prolongations of the scant remnants of Joris Keld. The torment intensifies with every linkage, every influx of information, every expansion of my perception. I detect the other neural adjuncts stirring too: the gunnery specialist, the auspex operator, the plasma regulator. Formerly people akin to myself, now demoted to dedicated computation clusters in the engine's mind. We can't exchange words outright. The mechanicus forbids it. Yet I perceive their essence, their distress, their acceptance of our collective doom. United, we embody Invictus Rex. United, we'll slaughter once more. The launch bay portals part ahead of us. Outside awaits the crust of yet another planet, yet another war zone, yet another foe to eradicate for an emperor whose existence may be myth. Intelligence floods our cogitators, operational guidelines, campaign goals, priority marks. This planet is a forge world. Per the Intel summary, one of the Mechanicus's core production hubs, now seized by Chaos Legions, the pollution seeps profoundly, tainting not only the populace but the mechanisms as well. Assembly drones revolting against their overseers, safeguard arrays firing on faithful Astra Militarum troops, fabrication chains spitting out arms and chassis for the apostate hosts. Our objective boils down to this: press to the chief forge shrine, safeguard the core archives, and obliterate the rest. No bids for redemption, no tries to reclaim tainted gear. Full extermination measures greenlit. Put plainly, we're tasked with eradicating all life and material save the records. The lore holds worth, the existences do not. We stride from the bay, our colossal treads pressing into the ferrocrete platform built to bear our colossal mass. Fellow Titans muster beside us, a duo of Reaver-class behemoths, slimmer than our Warlord chassis, yet still dominating the terrain. Twin Warhound Hunter Titans, the tiniest of the combat deities, agile and feral like pack predators. As one, we comprise a maniple, an official strike force of the Collegia Titanica, an unyielding hammer poised to pulverize the opposition. The Forge world sprawls ahead, a panorama of corrupted industrial power. Plant arrays vast as metropolises, smelters vomiting fouled vapors into a sky already choked with filth. Enormous foundries where ores once forged into the arms and walkers, fueling the Imperium's crusades. Everything warped now, distorted, warped by warp exposure. Through our optic feeds, I observe how even the edifices have twisted, forms meant to be sharp and functional, now arc in patterns that sting the sight. Ducts and channels throb like arteries under taut flesh, chimneys gaping like howling faces. The stain permeates utterly, inescapably, defying any purification. The Princeps issues the order to proceed, and our maniple surges onward in unison, footfalls quaking the soil. I register the terrain via the engine sensors. The tremors course through our legs, surging into the remnants of my neural pathways. Yet another layer of torment layered onto the endless suffering that defines our being. Defenses react without delay. Foul turrets pivot in our direction, their muzzles radiating eerie glows. Mutated servitors spill from the industrial sprawls, their former humanity warped into swollen or elongated husks. Extra appendages burst from their bodies, orbs of sight glaring from impossible spots. Looming in their wake, grander silhouettes, demon engines, abominable constructs infused with horrors from realms outside our dimension. Our armaments unleash before the full dread of the sight sinks in. The plasma incinerator on our flank erupts, its ray slicing across a group of turrets and the manufacturing zone beyond. The edifices don't merely detonate, they wail. The reinforced stone howls as it dissolves into vapor. The infestation runs so deep that the very architecture pulses with a sinister vitality. The lesser colossi clash with the demon engines, their ordnance flaring amid the toxic haze. The Reavers tackle the bigger foes as the Scout Titans weave through the fabrication halls, stalking packs of minor adversaries with feral precision. We press onward unyieldingly to the core shrine. Our rotary cannon arcs left and right, carving a route amid the tainted servitors lunging at our base. They pose no true threat to our hull, yet their hordes press hard, and their aberrations lend them startling prowess. Some hurl corrosive bile that corrodes the ground underfoot. Others rupture on annihilation, scattering the field with tainted tissue and gear that convulses independently. The heretics lack colossal engines of their own, or at least our sensors pick up none. Still, they swarm in multitudes, warped by the immaterium's foul touch, which twists our world beyond rational countermeasures. A squadron of flyers bursts from the shadow of a colossal processing plant. No loyalist silhouettes, but grotesque distortions of known schematics. They dive at our cohort, armaments blazing, rays that warp mid-flight, projectiles shrieking like tormented souls, rounds that spawn duplicates aloft, multiplying like vermin. Our barrier fields ignite under the barrage. The compact war machines take hits. Their weaker emitters falter against the profane munitions, but our overlord chassis endures, shielded by stacked auras and slabs of hallowed plating. The commander directs our beam annihilator arrays at the flyers. I sense the systems pulling charge, the surge racing along pathways fused to my synapses. Agony flares with every volley, though the outcome proves irrefutable. The defiled craft shatter in our focused onslaught, cascading ignited wreckage over the plants below. Our push persists. The prime sanctum swells in our sensor arrays. A colossal ziggurat of scorched alloy, its faces etched with warped mechanicus sigils. In place of precise gears and wiring, sinuous growths and throbbing vessel pipes now dominate. The divine emblems of the Omnissiah twisted into grotesque mockeries. This stands as the corruption's core, the wellspring of the blight that devoured this devoted forge realm. Per the operation outline, the vital archives rest in fortified chambers far under the sanctum. That data demands safeguarding. All else can burn. The last surge toward the sanctum proves the fiercest bulwark. Legions of defiled combat thralls erect a cordon round the edifice. Demon engines stalk amid barricade clusters, and overhead a churning maelstrom of aberrant forces, a rift-bound tempest fixed right at the pinnacle. Our legion arrays into a spearhead, our overlord chassis leading the thrust. The reavers secure the wings while the scouts sweep broadly to strike from the flanks. A timeless pincer maneuver, performed with the exactitude innate to the divine walkers. The fray erupts fully. Our batteries roar without pause, harvesting devastation through the foe lines. Their counterstrikes lash our barriers. The taint in their gear causes the shields to shimmer with hues alien to material existence. Each strike, each blast, each demise registers in me. The torment defies words, defies limits. Still, I persist. No alternative remains. We breach the sanctum's edge. The auxiliary giants bind the demon engines, pinning them down as we zero in on the structure. Our plasma incinerator ramps to peak output, siphoning raw plasma from the heart furnace. The anguish swells to a peak that would fracture mortal resolve. But humanity clings to me no more, does it? The armament unleashes. A spear of unadulterated plasma strikes, hammer the upper sections of the temple, slicing through tainted alloys like mere parchment. Follow-up blasts cascade over the edifice as energy lines burst and munitions caches ignite. The temple refuses to perish in quiet flames. It howls, it shrieks. The polluted steel itself wails as it liquefies and warps beneath the barrage from our armaments. Perimeter shields collapse. The infested swarms retreat into the temple's depths, assuming fresh strongholds, bracing for our certain push onward. The princeps directs us to advance, our colossal limbs propelling us across the devastated outskirts and into the ragged gash we've inflicted on the temple's flank. This marks the mission's most precarious phase. The information vaults demand preservation in full. Their holdings, tainted or otherwise, hold immense worth that we cannot risk obliterating. The Adeptus Mechanicus demands them for scrutiny, to decipher the blight that devoured this forge world, to halt its contagion from reaching other production hubs essential to the Imperium's crusade. Our progress eases, turning methodical. The lesser titans press on first, sweeping routes clear, spotting dangers, designating strikes for our finer armaments. The warhounds excel here, their nimbleness enabling traversal of the tightening confines. As we delve further into the temple's labyrinth, the warp stain intensifies with every step. The atmosphere itself appears to waver with hostile forces. Our sensor grids pick up rifts in reality, spots where the veil separating material existence from the immaterium frays perilously. The engine seers overseeing our networks from orbital sanctuary issue endless alerts, recalibrating our trajectory to skirt the gravest warps. I detect an entity as we near the core vaults. A mind, akin to mine yet perverted, defiled, inherently perverse. Another cogitator core, another captive essence, but no faithful devotee to the Emperor's realm. Something alien, something that welcomed the blight rather than resisting it. The entity intensifies. I perceive it testing the borders of our awareness, hunting for a way in, aiming to taint us as it itself has fallen. Our safeguarding sigils ignite against the assault. Cogitator souls and sanctified glyphs thrust back the foul essence, yet the onslaught persists, relentless, covert. Then I perceive it, not via sonic receptors, but straight into the remnants of my psyche. A voice, perhaps once mortal, but transformed beyond recognition. It utters my designation, Joris Kell. How does it recognize me? My self is entombed under strata of cybernetic fusion, concealed even from the forge priests who tend our mechanisms. Still, this abomination, this warped cogitator core, has unearthed the sliver of mortality lingering in our steel shell. Unite with us, Joris Kell. Accept the shift. Accept the liberation. Liberation. The term echoes through the dregs of my spirit. Liberation from torment. Liberation from perpetual toil. Liberation from duty's suffocating burden. The lure nearly overpowers me. Nearly. For I have witnessed the cost of such liberation, the contorted shells of the befouled servitors, the agonized alloys of the demon forges, the profound aberration of all warped by the Empyrean. This offers no true release. This constitutes a deeper bondage, more treacherous than the servitude I already bear. I spurn it, drive away the defiled entity. With every ounce of resolve I retain, the mechanism aids me, its cogitator soul bolstering my defiance, lending its vigor to my own. In unison we repel the incursion, mending the rift in our barriers. The voice recedes, yet not without a parting taunt. Our paths will cross once more, Joris Kell. Amid the clash of arms in the domains yonder, our paths will cross again. The Princeps detects nothing of this encounter. It transpired too swiftly, too profoundly within circuits solely mine to command. This minor triumph, this rebellion against a foe unlike my current liege, belongs to me alone. We arrive at the temple's core vault, the pulsing nucleus of the Forge World's labors. In former days, this site embodied disciplined production, pious crafting in the Omnissiah's honor. Now it embodies the foulest visions haunting mortal thoughts. The vault extends scores of meters across, its roof vanishing into gloom and churning auras. The fabrication arrays that once occupied this expanse have twisted into forms beyond words. Production chains yielding not arms or chassis, but grotesque mockeries of humanoid shapes, cauldrons of seething liquids that may have started as holy unguents, now evoking only molten tissue. And dominating the midst, a colossal edifice throbbing with aberrant vitality. The data vault, our assigned prize for capture, yet it bears little resemblance to its prior state of neat cogitator arrays and archive units. It has evolved, fused with living tissue, evolved into a grotesque fusion of mechanism, and flew a monstrous tech horror that doesn't merely store data but harbors a living entity. The Princeps falters for a moment. This defies everything we were briefed on. Our objectives never anticipated such profound decay. He hails the orbital fleet for updated orders, yet the warp storms intensify. Signals come through distorted and incomplete. We're isolated now. The archive beast throbs rhythmically, and with every pulse that eerie awareness returns. The tainted brain fragment, the entity that recognizes my identity. It's embedded at the core of this nightmare, manipulating it, guiding its actions. It addresses us once more, not solely to me this time, but transmitting across every channel to the Princeps, the tech priests, all present. Greetings, kin. Enter the realm of ascension. The lesser titans establish a protective ring around our formation. The warhounds prowl restlessly, their armaments scanning for foes but detecting none. The reavers hold steady, their advanced scanners delving into the archive beast, hunting for flaws and soft spots. I detect stirrings across the vast hall. The malformed servitors are assembling, lured by their overlord's summons. They spill from lateral corridors, descend from the darkened rafters, emerge from the frothing tanks. Thousands upon thousands, each grotesque beyond the previous. They don't assault us immediately. Instead, they mass, poised in anticipation. The princeps reaches his verdict. The archive can't be salvaged. The rot runs too far, too thoroughly. The wisdom it guards is irreparably poisoned. Destruction is the sole path forward, total and unrelenting. He issues the directive, our armaments charge, synchronized with those of the lesser titans. Agony surges anew as power surges through the conduits linked to my lingering neural remnants. Yet amid the torment, something deeper emerges, a conviction of justice, of mission. This horror cannot persist. This blight must not propagate. This isn't the rote obedience I've grown to loathe. This is imperative. This safeguards the last vestiges of humanity in a cosmos swiftly abandoning its essence. The archive beast perceives our purpose. The servitors charge ahead. A torrent of warped tissue and metal slams into our lines. The lesser titans counter, their guns blazing non-stop, carving a grim toll through the horde. But their numbers overwhelm. They start scaling the closest warhound's limbs. Their deformed appendages grip the plating. Their corrosive limbs corrode through ceramite and adamantium. The warhound thrashes to shake them free. Its weapons blast at point-blank range into the cluster, vaporizing scores per volley. Yet they persist, clambering over their comrades' corpses, ascending further. A reaver shifts to aid, its incinerator arrays bathing the afflicted titan in cleansing flames. Servitors char and explode, tumbling from the warhound's frame, but the harm lingers. Its right knee actuator is breached, hydraulic fluids seep from severed conduits. Its agility suffers, leaving it exposed in the chamber's tight confines. The princeps directs us to press on. Our colossal bulk overshadows even the other titans, our firepower surpassing theirs in reach and force. We'll strike the archive beast head-on while they fend off the servitor onslaught. We lumber ahead, each footfall quaking the space, pulverizing servitors under our immense treads. Now they fixate on us, identifying the paramount danger. They flood toward us, a deluge of debased matter bent on our annihilation. Our void shields ignite as they collide with the barriers, vaporizing the vanguard. But reinforcements follow endlessly, and shields have thresholds. Every collision saps energy, diminishes output, edges us toward the point where our hull must endure the fury unshielded. The archive beast throbs more urgently, its cadence turning wild, frantic. The tainted brain fragment transmits anew, its words laced with possible dread. The transformation cannot be averted, the elevation cannot be impeded. The forged worlds shall adopt the evolved form. The Imperium shall crumble, the warp shall seize everything. The princeps disregards the broadcast. His concentration is unyielding. His resolve dominates our systems, propelling us onward against the onslaught. We attain prime range. Our weapons fixate on the archive beast's throbbing nucleus. Energy accumulates, torment escalates, the volcano cannon unleashes. A beam of unadulterated plasma pierces the archive beast's vital core. The chamber erupts in dazzling radiance and a noise resembling a wail. The tainted brain fragment sends one last communique. Its transmission shatters, fades. We shall cross paths once more, Joris Keel. In the domain of departed spirits, in the warp that engulfs us all. Then quiet descends. The archive beast implodes upon itself. Its framework disintegrates utterly, the servitors assailing us abruptly. Suddenly, they halt. Their vital energy extinguished. They tumble from our limbs, from the lesser titans, from the walls of the chamber, lifeless, extinguished, assuming they possessed true life at all. The objective achieved, albeit not according to protocol. The records destroyed, yet the infestation sealed off. The blight that risked infecting other forge worlds has been eradicated. The toll exacted dearly. in harm to our hallowed chassis and the forfeiture of lore that could have bolstered the Imperium. Yet, certain costs demand payment. The Princeps commands a tactical retreat. The sanctuary now teeters on collapse. The obliteration of the archive entity has sparked chain reactions across its tainted mechanisms. We retreat toward the rendezvous zone before the whole edifice crumbles. We pivot, our impaired form groaning at every shift. The junior titans cluster nearby, equally scarred but operational. In unison, we commence the arduous trek to security. While advancing, I reflect on the tainted neural fragment's declarations. Its vow of reunion, its allusion to the warp as our ultimate end. Is that the destiny ordained for us? Does the abyss of chaos represent the soul hereafter for entities like mine, caught between flesh and forge? I dismiss such notions, just as I spurned its lure of liberation. There has to be an alternative beyond. Perhaps the Emperor assembling his devotees beside him in his ethereal realm, or mere nothingness. A cessation of awareness, a halt to suffering, both preferable to the warp's promised perpetual agony. We arrive at the extraction site. Shuttles descend from the stars, enormous vessels crafted to ferry the lesser titans. Our warlord bulk proves too immense, too burdensome. We await the bespoke carrier capable of supporting our mass. As the smaller titans are fastened and hoisted skyward, we maintain vigil, armaments primed, scanners probing for any resurgence of peril. The defiled forge world sprawls about us, a desolation of polluted factories and warped alloys. No motion stirs save the gusts bearing soot and sparks from the smoldering shrine. I question whether this realm can be redeemed, whether the impurity can be wholly purged, or if the Imperium will bother, or merely condemn this sphere as forsaken and press onward to the subsequent conflict, the ensuing menace, the following horror in an interminable crusade. The custom hauler materializes, its colossal thrusters laboring against the fouled skies. Attachment grapples latch on, fastening protocols engage. We ascend from the ground, distancing from the foulness, returning to the emptiness where the armada lingers. The Princeps initiates the power down for auxiliary functions. My awareness diminishes anew, withdrawing from the machine's outer reaches toward my neural core. The ache ebbs, supplanted by the customary void of stasis. In moments, slumber will reclaim me, visions will stir, maybe of terror's primordial seas, maybe of an existence I never claimed, maybe of emptiness itself. Until the forthcoming clash, the next rousing, the subsequent rush of might and torment, the existence of a titan servitor, the demise that endures forever. As obscurity engulfs me, I cling to a single conviction, a core verity that fortifies me. Once, I was human. I was Joris Kell. And amid the cosmos's immensity, in some obscure niche of existence, that individual persists. That individual still recalls daylight, still senses breezes upon his skin, still grasps the essence of humanity. That individual is no longer me. Not any longer. But his recollection anchors my reason in a cosmos devoid of further solace, obscurity total and unyielding, and within the obscurity, reveries. I envision liquid, crisp, pristine liquid cascading over my palms, a brook amid woods unseen by mortal gaze, foliage stretching to an azure vault, avian songs echoing from boughs laden with verdure, serenity, calmness, states alien to my devotion within the Imperium, even prior to my fusion with the construct. The reverie alters, the liquid reddens, the foliage shrivels and perishes, the avians hush, the vault blackens with fumes from incinerated globes. Conflict arrives, as it invariably does, demise trails, as it inevitably must. I traverse a field of slaughter littered with remains, some clad in the garb of the Imperial Guard, others in the ceramite armor of the Adeptus Astartes. Yet more in the vestments of the Mechanicus or the raiment of the Ecclesiarchy, all slain, all fixed upon me with reproachful gazes that pierce through death's veil. Quote, or they appear to whisper. Quote 1. I attempt rebuttal, strive to justify that I suffer as they do, that I lack agency in the ruin I unleash, that I am captive, thrall, mere part in a mechanism pursuing aims outside my sway. They heed not. The deceased never heed. The reverie alters once more. I face a council. 3 silhouettes cloaked in gloom, features veiled, tones warped. They intone accusations, offenses against mankind, outrages enacted in the N. The name of the Emperor, countless lives extinguished by my actions. I beg for compassion, for insight. I argued that I obeyed directives, that I lacked alternatives, that I was merely a tool like the armaments fixed to our structure, that the true perpetrators are the architects of the neural links, the ones who fused human awareness into engines of destruction, who doomed spirits such as mine to endless suffering. The court remains indifferent. They deliver the verdict: perpetual duty, unending agony, ceaseless conflict. The penalty matches the offense, they declare. Equity requires nothing milder. I cry out then in the vision, cry out with a tone I no longer own, cry out bearing the fury and hopelessness of ages of anguish, cry out with the fading remnant of Joris Keld, and rouse to obscurity, to quiet, to the accustomed confines of my neural enclosure. Energy reserves are low. Just the essential sustenance mechanisms to sustain my being remain operational. The apparatus slumbers about me, its armaments deactivated, its detectors dormant, its enormous appendages locked in mooring restraints. We are en route, I surmise, conveyed to our following assignment, our subsequent clash, our latest outrage. In this mode of reduced operation, my reflections sharpen beyond what they'll be when the apparatus fully revives. The divides between Joris Kell and Invictus Rex sharpen. I nearly recollect my prior identity, nearly summon the occurrences that dragged me into this perpetual curse. I served as an official in the Imperial Navy. That detail I grasp firmly. A commander, maybe, or a fleet leader, an individual of adequate status and achievement to qualify for elevation into the Collegia Titanica. I enlisted willingly, although the reasons blur in my mind at most: honor, maybe, obligation, the vow of everlasting life in the Emperor's service, the guarantee that my offering would safeguard mankind's persistence amid the cosmos. Deceptions. Every one a charming falsehood to veil a grim reality. They required neural elements, required human intellects to connect with their battle constructs, required our instincts, our ingenuity, our talent for directed ferocity, and they were prepared to sentence us to perpetual misery to obtain it. Did I grasp what lay ahead? Was I informed of the reality behind fusion? I can't retrieve that. Those recollections were the initial ones, removed amid the ritual. Far too hazardous to preserve whole, far too prone to foster bitterness, opposition, uprising, yet they failed to erase it all. A sliver of recollection, a fragment of my old essence endured the ritual sufficiently to recognize that I was betrayed, that we were all betrayed, that the harm inflicted on us equals the horrors wrought by the foes we combat. Not that it counts for anything. My verdict shifts nothing, my indignation modifies nothing. I possess no outlet save inside the jail of my thoughts, no control save the brief instance of rebellion I seize amid the Princeps directives. No prospect save the ultimate cessation that will conclude my suffering. Energy reserves start to climb. The apparatus rouses around me. Startup sequences initiate. My awareness stretches outward again, linking to mechanisms powering up, transforming into prolongations of whatever scraps endure of Euroscale. The torment re-emerges, routine and undesired. We've entered a fresh combat area. The information influx commences, strategic details surging into our cogitators. This planet is a hive world, among the bustling hubs of human multitudes scattered across the Imperium. Billions of lives packed into urban fortresses that tower kilometers upward and burrow equally far below ground. Per the mission summary, this planet faces insurrection. The world governor has proclaimed autonomy from the Imperium, mobilizing the populace with vows of liberation from imperial levies and drafts. The Adeptus Munitorum has countered with crushing power. Legions of Imperial Guard airdropped from space, aerial squadrons securing sky dominance, cannon emplacements positioning in the barren expanses between hive metropolises, and now the Titans, the pinnacle of Imperial dominance. The stark emblem of the fate awaiting those who challenge the Emperor's decree. Our objectives are precise: Proceed toward the insurgent-controlled hive metropolis. Storm its perimeter barriers. Infiltrate to the core tower where the governor has set up his command post. Eliminate all who block our path. Fear inducement. A display of power intended not merely to quash this uprising, but to deter future ones. The slaughter of millions to enforce the compliance of billions. Standard operations for the Imperium. The launch chamber gates part ahead of us. Past them stretches the hive world's exterior, a ravaged terrain of factory refuse and pollutant streams extending to the edge of sight. Far off, the towers of the defiant hive city ascend to a contaminated heaven, their peaks veiled in constant haze. We stride out from the chamber, our colossal footfalls embedding into soil, reduced to mire by eons of poisonous waste. Alert. Additional colossal engines deploy with us, forming a complete strike force from the Collegia Titanica. Warlords, reavers, warhounds, a phalanx of ambulatory bastions poised to pulverize the uprising underfoot. Astra Militarum forces have secured a boundary around our touchdown area. Armored vehicles and heavy ordnance arranged in protective arrays. Foot soldiers dug into foxholes and sheltered by barriers. They all gaze upward as we rise into view, expressions blending reverence, gratitude, and terror. They ought to dread not the insurgents, but ourselves, our symbolism, our impending actions for the sake of imperial cohesion. The Princeps obtains last approvals on operational directives from Central Command. The command to proceed echoes, our mechanism surges, enormous limbs propel us onward with unyielding intent. The fellow Titans align beside us, crafting a spearhead of ruin directed at the rebel metropolis's core. The Astra Militarum detachments shift out of our path as we march through, opening pathways amid their fortified ranks. Certain troops form the Aquila gesture while we thunder past. Some murmur invocations to the God Emperor. Others just gape, mesmerized by the divine engines in action. Are they aware of our true nature? Do they grasp that under the holy plating and sanctified arms we remain captives, thralls, spirits in agony? Would it matter to them if they did? Unlikely. The Imperium thrives on anguish, on devotion, on bending the self to the greater collective's demands. My torment mirrors that of the underhive laborer laboring in poisonous environs for 16 hours daily. Of the Astra Militarum troopers dispatched to perish on some obscure war zone, of the psyker immolated to power the Astronomicon. Every one of us contributes, everyone endures. Everyone perishes for the throne. A few merely linger in death longer than the rest. We near the perimeter fortifications of the insurgent hive. They've had moments to fortify, setting up gun nests and obstacles. Mounded earthworks buttressed by rocket launchers, fortified outposts swarming with potent armaments, anti-tank furrows crammed with hazardous sludge and rubble, remarkable for ad hoc civilian setups repurposed for war, utterly futile versus god machines. Our ion shields ignite as initial barrages from the foe's lines strike home. Thus, blasts dissipate uselessly on the force barriers, projectiles burst too soon, their payloads inadequate to breach our safeguards. Even the rebels' heftiest artillery, jury-rigged macro cannons scavenged from the hive's void defenses, hardly dent our barriers. We retaliate with disdainful simplicity. The plasma annihilator on our port limb unleashes, its ray slicing the primary bunker array like tissue. Follow-up detonations cascade along the front as munitions ignite and reactors fail. The chain cannon on our starboard limb rakes the surviving strongholds, every round burrowing through thick layers of ferrocrete. The frontier barriers collapse in mere moments. The enemy fractures, retreating to the supposed haven of the hive's interior. They abandon their casualties and injured. Countless corpses strewn over the scorched terrain, a mere prelude to the slaughter ahead. We press on without pause, our gigantic strides vaulting the demolished lines and closing on the towering mass of the hive spire. The underlevels unfold ahead, a labyrinth of factories, domiciles for laborers and refineries. The insurgents have set up fallback lines in these zones, exploiting the cityscape for cover. It won't protect them. The lesser engines surge forward, their superior nimbleness letting them weave through the tight gaps between hab towers and forges. The warhounds prove especially suited here. Their armaments ideally proportioned for street fighting, They root out foes from cover, force them into exposed areas, channel them into slaughter zones patrolled by the bigger walkers. Our warlord chassis progresses with measured caution. Our bulk hampers agility amid the jammed underhive clutter. Yet, what we forfeit in speed, we compensate with sheer annihilating force. Every footfall flattens whole habitation modules. Every shot vaporizes urban districts. We're built for broad devastation, not finesse or accurate hits. We're the mallet, and all in our path are mere pins. The foe persists in defiance, hopeless though their stand may be. They plant crude bombs that erupt under our treads, feeble enough to glance off our plating, yet irritating all the same. They loose anti-tank rounds from high-rises and ledges. The strikes scarcely phase our ion fields. They even try overwhelming our struts with fanatic charges. Their blasts too puny for real harm, but lethal to the masses hurled at us. Their bravery deserves respect. Their strategies make sense with scant supplies. Their grievance may be even righteous in some lofty ethical framework outside the Imperium's unyielding creed. Nonsense. None of it counts for much. They rise up, they perish. The Imperium persists. We arrive at the heart of the hive's core strata. The surroundings shift dramatically. The grim factories and filth of the underlevels yield to the modest affluence of trade and governance districts. Broader avenues, loftier structures, neater facades, hints of luxury and status. Even within a rigidly hierarchical and tyrannical realm like that of a standard hive planet, the insurgents have fortified their most robust barriers in this zone. They've hijacked the hive's built-in defense mechanisms. Robotic cannons monitor our progress, their plasma blasts firing relentlessly at our energy barriers. Reinforced bulkheads seal off primary pathways, compelling us to carve alternative routes via structures and residential modules. Converted civilian vehicles turned into aerial fighters swoop down on us from above, weaving amid towers and scaffolds. The Princeps modifies our tactics. The straightforward path to the main tower is overly fortified. The cityscape proves too confining for our colossal bulk. Instead, we'll flank via the expansive commercial boulevards, striking essential facilities to dismantle the insurgents' leadership and oversight grids, energy stations, signal centers, filtration facilities for water, atmospheric processors, the lifeblood of the hive, without which its inhabitants face extinction. We assault them methodically. Our armaments pulverize vital installations into debris and cinders. Every demolition draws us nearer to triumph, not through slaying foes outright, but by transforming the habitat into their adversary. Powerless vital support mechanisms collapse. Isolated from signals, unity dissolves. Deprived of water, dehydration claims lives faster than projectiles. In an enclosed hive, absent air renewal, each inhalation hastens demise. Such is the genuine terror of city combat on a hive planet. Frontline clashes eliminate thousands. Sabotaging foundations dooms millions. Gradually, agonizingly, relentlessly, and I sense every passing, every soul snuffed out echoes faintly in my mind. Every plea for clemency, ignored by the command crew, yet piercing to the remnants of my mortal essence. Every supplication to a distant emperor who offers no reply. The insurgents' defiance starts to fracture. Their surviving transmissions reveal infighting among troops, locals rising against the uprising as hardships mount, regional guard contingents defecting, begging pardon from the Imperium they formerly opposed. The planetary ruler clings to the central tower, backed by his staunchest allies, yet his grip on the broader hive erodes hour by hour, with every sabotaged junction, with every escalation of ecological ruin we impose. We press onward, encircling progressively toward the central tower. Fellow war engines relay comparable gains in their zones. The revolt fades not in a blaze of glory, but in the faint sob of a population grasping the steep price of resistance too late. In the shards of awareness spared by the machine's demands, I ponder. Had they foreseen the consequences, grasped the fallout of insurrection, balanced the Imperium's despotism against other paths, and chosen deliberately? Unlikely. Scarcely anyone within the Imperium grasps its essence. Few recognize that its harshness isn't a flaw, but inherent. Its subjugation, not accidental, but core. Its savagery, not overreach, but essential. The Imperium survives not in spite of these traits, but thanks to them. As we embody them, as I channel them, as Invictus Rex embodies them, we personify the Imperium's core, its harshness, its subjugation, its savagery, embodied, operational, and directed at adversaries. We approach the Central Tower's outer edge, the Governor's ultimate stronghold, the end goal. The insurgent chief has amassed his leftover troops here, layered barriers in place, braced for the blockade he surely anticipated from the instant he proclaimed secession. The tower soars for kilometers into the toxic heavens, a testament to mortal drive and arrogance. Its base tiers bristle with artillery nests guarding all entries. Its central floors, once for bureaucratic tasks, now geared for conflict. Its summit realms, home to the governor and the hive's upper crust, veiled in the constant haze smothering the planet. Our directives are clear-cut. Storm the tower, climb to the ruler's quarters, eliminate the betrayer and his supporters, set a precedent that resonates through the sector for ages. The Princeps coordinates with the allied titans. They encircle the tower's foundation, armaments aimed at foundational pillars and weight-bearing frameworks. We won't claw upward through layers of entrenched positions. We'll topple the whole edifice if required. The insurgents perceive our strategy. They launch a frantic retaliation, deploying. They draw on their dwindling stockpiles in a desperate push to repel our advance. Improvised armored vehicles burst from hidden garages, their armaments firing harmlessly off our energy barriers. Fighters dive from elevated platforms along the tower's sides. Kamikaze aviators targeting our colossal structure's weak spots. Troops pour out from every hatch and corridor, a human wave bent on our annihilation. Their courage is futile, their martyrdom pointless. The result was sealed when the initial Titans set foot on this planet. Or maybe earlier still. Maybe it was fixed the instant the governor endorsed the Declaration of Independence. His decision shaped not by insight or fairness, but by arrogance, by overreach, by the deadly illusion that the Imperium's influence knows bounds, that its recall offers forgiveness, that its retribution shows moderation. Our armaments unleash a coordinated volley that rattles the hive's core foundations. The tower's perimeter shields shatter beneath the assault, turret batteries evaporated, bastions pulverized into debris. The retaliatory troops find themselves in the open, vulnerable to the unleashed wrath of Titan ordnance. They perish in droves. Their remains turn to cinders or mist so swiftly they scarcely feel the agony. A kind of leniency. At least their ends come fast, unlike the hordes gradually perishing in the underhive as vital systems shut down. Unlike the untold numbers who will hunger in the weeks ahead as supply lines crumble. Unlike the lineages not yet born who will endure the fallout of this uprising. The heightened control and vigilance that inevitably trail such defiance. The tower's base levels start buckling from our relentless shelling. Load-bearing elements give way dramatically, overwhelmed by the focused blasts from several Titan-grade weapons. The whole edifice creaks, its rumble piercing the chaos of combat as its immense bulk settles on compromised supports. Warnings flicker on our command screens. The tower's power cores are unraveling. Energy surges signal an impending meltdown. Should the reactors blow, the blast would erase not only the tower, but a vast swath of the adjacent hive. Countless more would perish in the shockwave, even more in the lingering radiation. The Princeps pauses. Our mandate is to eliminate the governor, not devastate half the city. The Imperium seeks this world subdued, not scorched beyond use. Its inhabitants culled as a warning, not wiped out wholesale. Its output revived, not forever forfeited. He orders a halt to the firing. The Titans go quiet, their guns cooling, their enormous silhouettes frozen in the midst of the ruin they've unleashed. Via our sensor grids, we pick up activity at the tower's summit, a transport vessel readying to depart, the governor trying to escape. The Princeps responds without delay. Our volcano cannon primes, pulling energy straight from our fusion heart. The strain mounts again, a searing force where my optic nerves once lay. Firing coordinates surge through my surviving brain matter, computations too intricate for mere machines to handle with the required precision and instinct. The cannon fires. A beam of unfiltered plasma lances skyward, bridging the miles to the escaping vessel in a blink. The ship stands no chance. One moment it's there, the next, it's gone. incinerated so utterly that no trace lingers to commemorate the governor's demise. Objective achieved. The Princeps broadcasts the all-safe. The fellow Titans deactivate their armaments. Astra Militarum detachments advance. Backed by Adeptus Arbits, strike teams. They will claim what's left of the tower, purge any lingering insurgents, reimpose imperial rule through whip, fetter, and on-the-spot judgments. The revolt has ended. The Imperium persists. The pattern repeats. As we pivot to retreat, heading back to the drop site and the carriers awaiting our next assignment, I glimpse the hive via our optic feeds. The havoc we've inflicted, the myriad corpses, the shattered frameworks, the living gazing at our withdrawing shapes with stares devoid of all but hopelessness. This is our purpose, mine, Invictus Rex's. We shatter structures, we slay lives, we quash defiance, we impose obedience, we guarantee the Imperium's hold remains unyielding, that its command faces no true contest, that its rule spans every human outpost across the stars, all for an emperor possibly long departed in pursuit of a dream-twisted past salvation, in devotion to an imperium that has morphed into the monster it arose to destroy. And why? So humanity endures, clings on like this in ceaseless conflict, in constant torment, in a cosmos where optimism is the harshest lie and compassion the gravest frailty. Is our being truly deserving of salvation? Does this realm demand our unwavering loyalty? Is this sovereign worthy of our ultimate sacrifice? Queries, bereft of replies, uncertainties lacking closure, defiance met with no reprisal. After all, who could perceive the inner musings of a synaptic node entombed amid miles of sanctified wiring? Nobody. Not a soul. We arrive at the descent area. The custom hauler lies in wait, its colossal thrusters murmuring in standby, its attachment arms unfurled. The engine adepts have finished their after-engagement ceremonies, consecrated our plating with revered lubricants, pacified our mechanical essence via the requisite litanies and utterances. The overseer commences the power-off protocol for auxiliary mechanisms. My sentience draws inward yet again, withdrawing from the device's farthest edges to my synaptic vault. The torment ebbs away, supplanted by the customary void of stasis. In moments, I shall rest once more, envision once more. Visions of fear's primordial depths, perhaps. Visions of an unwitnessed past, maybe. Or simply emptiness until the ensuing clash, the following rousing, the subsequent flood of might and